It is the sound of looking back, of youthful echoes remembered by the ears of wisdom, of alleyways walked by greatness where children used to play, and of autumn eyes reflecting on fleeting shadows from the past. It is a journey in the life of Dr. David Baker, an amazing man with a remarkable gift.
I was shocked when I heard he was coming. I was like, really? He's a legend.
A person like his caliber is coming to see us, just a small drum ensemble. It's unbelievable.
So what does a legend look like? A bright smile, an open, friendly manner. But behind the gentle exterior, there is a mind feverishly working, taking in every sight, every sound.
Everything that I come into contact with has an influence on me. You know, sometimes it takes a long time for it to be synthesized. At other times I'm able to utilize it immediately. Sometimes I discard it. Man, you're a genius.
No,
you're
a genius.
Dr. David Baker has been commissioned by the Indianapolis Symphony Orchestra to compose an original work. For its subject, he has chosen growing up in Indianapolis. For inspiration, he has come to Flanner House to share in the joy of musical discovery with Lawrence Grandpa Clark's Children of Rhythm. It's a day that takes him back in time, for strip away the adult veneer, he was once so very much like them.
You know, I'm a country boy from Indianapolis from a time when it was a bunch of fields, where the streets out where I live were still dirt streets. All of this is a part of who I am when I get ready to write a piece for Indianapolis.
I could play for 25,000 people, but I could come here in the hands of a master. That's just as important, or perhaps more important, because it's home.
This is David Baker as the world sees him. Pulitzer Prize and Grammy nominee, Emmy winner, to be honored in 2007 by the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts as a living jazz legend. A man comfortable with hearing his works performed before audiences of thousands, but the private David Baker will tell you that he takes greater joy in having his works performed before intimate audiences. He's composed over 2,000 works, and he knows that musical scores like Dancing Shadows have a very singular origin before an audience of one.
A composer needs solitary time, the time to be able to write uninterrupted. Now, I put that on a piece of paper, I look at it on the side, I turn it so it makes a chord to see if it's pregnant, if it's capable of bearing fruit. And you can tell pretty soon if you're going to run up against a wall very quickly with it, then you let that alone and try something else. To another melody. I keep a metronome on all the time when I'm writing, because it's so easy when you have to break up the writing stint. You write for 2 hours and you're going to go do other things for 4 hours. Now, where was I with the time? And all of a sudden you find that you made a disconnect. You've written something that's unplayable at the tempo you've been writing. And the one thing that's a common denominator to every composer, nope, that doesn't work, is that none of the pencils have any erasers left. Probably your most valuable asset is that eraser. You know, I look at Beethoven manuscripts, and you never saw so many scratches and erases, something that seems so effortless. I saw in the Far Side the melody, the ba 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 ba, and it has ba 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 beep, and then it's ba 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 eh, and finally you look at the last time and he says Eureka. It's only a fool that goes in a straight line when the road curves, and sometimes when I'm writing, the road curves, and I have to go with the muse. Most of the time I have to decide what is it capable of bearing. It has to touch me in some way, because if it doesn't touch me, how can I expect it to touch an audience? With an orchestra of Indianapolis caliber, the door is open. And it's up to you to find out how to tame the creative beast who wants to do something.
The hall is filled with the sound of memories. not only those of Dr. Baker, but of one other, a man whose lifelong love of music inspired the commission of Dancing Shadows in his honor.
My husband passed away about 2.5 years ago. His name was Brian Malloy, and he was quite interested in many forms of music, including jazz, and this just seemed to me a unique opportunity to give something to Indianapolis, but also do it in memory of him.
This is a rehearsal we have to bring out and to make the balance, and it's a very technical thing, but behind, of course, my heart is beating.
Thought that the second movement is a bit hurried in places.
Okay.
Like this place, particularly.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Okay.
Then you
okay.
can hear the accents.
Can we do it again, the second movement?
Sure.
Yeah. Will you stay here and you can interrupt immediately if you,
Okay.
Yeah. Somebody can bring a chair.
No, I don't need a chair.
Second movement.
I just look old. I encounter a lot of conductors, but I rarely encounter somebody who has a total vision and also the kind of sensitivities that Mario has. I've fallen in love with Mario.
This piece tells about his life and about his world, about his mind, his soul, and it's a very deep piece. And of course I wanted to understand what he means and bring it out, and it was an absolute thrill for me.
He not only is a jazz composer and performer, but he is trained classically. He knows so much that he can put something down on paper that is kind of like a soundtrack for a film about memories of, happy childhood memories. And then suddenly you get to this part after that has all happened, and we've gotten to this jazz section that is with all of us in the cellos and basses doing this plucked part, which is called pizzicato, and it's a very jazzy rhythm.
You know, I've worked with a lot of orchestras, and I've never seen that kind of empathy in an orchestra where there's so much love between conductor and orchestra, and I just feel so privileged to be able to share in that kind of an experience.
The piece went from his mind and his soul to paper, and now it comes back from paper to life, and that I have the chance to go into this world. This is an outstanding gift for me, and I only can say thank you.
I know how it affected me, and the fact that it's got a little bit of sadness in there, but there's an awful lot of joy.
I'm just absolutely thrilled. I'm trying to keep from fainting right here now. It was very beautiful. I don't know that I have words to describe it. It was everything I heard in my head was on the stage tonight.
Life goes on, even for a legend.
Hey, brother, how are you? Just fine.
No sooner has the applause for composer Dr. David Baker faded into memory than Professor Dr. David Baker takes his customary station before the next generation at the Indiana University Jacobs School of Music, ready to share the lessons that both music and life have taught him.
2, 2, 3.
And there's Thursday Night at Bears, where even a Grammy nominee can relish a little time spent with homespun musicians in the feel of jamming right in your own backyard. At one time, Dr. Baker dreamed of being a famous trombone player, but a serious accident robbed him of the chance and turned that boyhood dream into a memory as thin as a shadow and as untouchable as the wind. But then, fate had a wiser plan for Dr. Baker, for what was the trombone's loss was our gain. For it took him to a world of different silhouettes, those of teacher, mentor, friend, composer, and dancer with dreams. And that has made all the difference.
We're supposed to improve upon our talents according to the Bible, so I try hard to try my best to improve upon them.
You're the top, you're the Coliseum, you're the top.
We continue our journey here at the Cole Porter Room at the Indiana Historical Society, where the jukebox is always alive with classic Porter tunes. Cole Porter was the epitome of class and elegance. He established a standard for songwriting that has never quite been equaled. Now, with his Indiana roots, you might think that nearly everything this worldwide legend touched, or any place he hung his hat, would be enshrined by the powers that be. So it might surprise you to learn that his boyhood home was once condemned property, ready to be torn down. But that's where we're headed now, to Peru, where the house has been given a second chance and is about ready to make its debut to a whole new audience of Porter fans. And baby, if its condemnation was the bottom, then its restoration is the top.
From this very house, more than 100 years ago, a musical prodigy, who had already composed his first song at age 10, peered out into the streets of Peru, Indiana. The structure that was once his father's drugstore still stands on Main Street, just a mile from the home. There was always a melody in the little boy's heart and lyrics in his head. His boyhood home is truly unique, says the mayor of Peru, Indiana, Jim Walker.
Of all of the great composers of that era, this is the only birthplace remaining. That is quite an accomplishment, and I think that's something this community ought to realize. And I think we ought to take advantage of that so we can bring people and say, you know, this is where it all started.
But sadly, for years, the only indication of who was born in this house was a plaque nestled in the corner of the yard. The home, admits the mayor, has been a source of embarrassment in recent years.
There was a meth lab operating in this facility. And back in 2003, the meth lab was busted for good reasons. And so anyway, we started to begin to think, how can we get a hold of this house?
The structure was in such disrepair, there was concern if it could be refurbished.
The thing that was embarrassing when people would come here to Peru, Indiana and say, this was Cole Porter's birthplace, this was his hometown. Where was he born? And you were almost embarrassed to say, well, it's at the corner of 3rd and Huntington. Again, this was one of the greatest composers of all time who was the epitome of class and style, and his birthplace was in that condition.
Dick Schaffhausen, president of the Ole Olson Foundation that purchased the house for restoration, confesses a former lack of appreciation for the significance of the home.
Well, Dick, I mean, as you look at this house, there are probably people even here in Peru who didn't realize its significance. Is that fair to say?
I would say that's fair to say. I've lived here for I moved here 20 years ago, and to be quite honest, I didn't realize that Cole Porter was born and raised in Peru until about 5 years ago.
And so on a chilly day, a warm reception and a tour.
Tell me a little about the attention to the historical accuracy of this that you had to do.
We've consulted with the Indiana Historical Society. We have changed a few things. If you notice, we have a sloped roof up here. Those were flat roofs. Basically, they were rotten.
Do we know the original color?
No,
we don't.
Unfortunately,
we don't.
No.
Yeah.
This is a color scheme that was prevalent at the time. So, and it's a very awesome house when you backdrop it against the sky, the blue sky backdrop and the yellow. It is a very impressive.
Let's walk around the corner here.
Well, Cole Porter's room is on the second floor, and it would be, I guess, the southwest corner. And this was his suite or his area.
Can we take a walk inside?
Sure.
Let's go ahead. Original door?
I would imagine.
It sure looks it, doesn't it?
It's been painted.
Yeah.
In fact, if you notice, the front door has been redone, stripped, professionally stripped, and they're going to do the same thing with this door.
So, Dick, this would have been how the Cole family entered the home, right? 100
Yes,
years ago?
absolutely.
Right
Absolutely.
up these stairs.
Mm-hmm.
Like the first notes on a song sheet, the house is a work in progress.
This here, this is the actual room where, at 6 years old, he probably lived, right?
That's correct. And it's used as a little storage area. We're still working on it, but this was his bedroom.
And what's the rumor?
The rumor was that at age 10, he wrote on the wall that he wanted to be a songwriter. He did not want to be an attorney.
Joey Cole Kubesh lives in town and likes the sound of the entire project.
You're Joey.
Hi.
Hi, Joey. Nice.
Want to shake hands?
No, that's okay. No, let's do it. Let's do it. I don't feel like I'm part of the job.
There's a song that
You
way.
are. Tell me how you're related to Cole Porter.
Cole Porter and my great-grandfather were first cousins. Well, my father tried for 20 years to get this place bought and to turn it into a museum. I think the first songs that I memorized were Porter tunes. My parents always made sure that it was available and playing around us as we grew up.
And just as Cole Porter altered the American musical, this historic home will go through a dramatic transformation, becoming a bed and breakfast and museum.
When you see what it was when he lived here to what it was prior to us buying it, it was night and day.
Night and day.